are now 15-6, and they're only a half game out of first place in the entire Western Conference. And they just had a good week where Alperen Şengün won Player of the Week. So Will and I are going to be discussing that on this episode of the Bradeaux Will Show.
All right, and welcome back to the episode of the Bradeaux Will Show. I heard Brad. Today we're going to be talking about, just a few topics with the Houston Rockets this week. We can lead it off, honestly, with Alperen Şengün and his Player of the Week. What you think about that this week, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, for one, the Rockets had 3 extremely close games. They had a close OT win against the Sixers, a close OT win against the Timberwolves, and then just recently had a close win against OKC that came down to the wire. And Şengün in all 3 of those had around 20, 10, and 9. That's what he averaged for the week. Specifically, it was I'll pull it up really quickly, but he averaged, I want to say, and 9 assists, 1.7 steals, 1.7 blocks. Played very consistent, slow first halves, and then he came alive in the second and took the Rockets home in those games. So big shout out to Alperen Şengün. It's his second time winning the award. He's like the 7th Houston Rocket to do it. He joins like Hakeem Olajuwon, Moses Malone, Steve Francis, Tracy, Yao Ming, and of course James Harden. So I mean, very exclusive company for him. And I just want to give him his props. I mean, at this point, again, the Rockets being 15-6 to the number 2 seed, half a game back from OKC. He's definitely not going to win any MVP, but he should be in that all-star race for sure, especially with the Rockets being that high in the standings. Typically, if you're that good, one of those players will get a spot in the all-star game. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to make it this year. As a whole this season now, he's averaging 18.8 points on the season, 10.9 rebounds, and 5.3 assists. I mean, players 22 or younger to do that for a whole season are only Oscar Robertson and Nikola Jokic, and then Alperen Şengün. So he's in very great company as well with the stats he's putting up. And will tell you, I'm sure he'll bring it up. This is not the best Şengün that we've seen this season. The efficiency can still improve. He's still not playing his best inside the paint. And I think there's a lot more that we can see from him. And last thing I want to comment on with Alperen Şengün, they've done a lot better job of getting him the rock and letting him facilitate. And in that last game specifically against OKC, he had 9 assists, but he had 22 potential assists. The Rockets were just missing their shots, and they only had 1 turnover in that game. So he's distributing the ball a lot better, finding a lot of open Rocket teammates, and that's going to be a good recipe for success for them going forward.
The biggest thing for me is what Brad kind of touched on at the end there. Like, Şengün's not playing his best basketball yet. He's still missing the shots that we've seen him make routinely in the past. So one, I'm not really concerned that they're not falling because I know that he can make those shots and he's just missing them. Part of me kind of wonders if the reason he's missing these bunnies is because he's exerting so much effort on defense that he kind of doesn't have the same, wind under his legs for the offensive side of the ball. But he's missing some simple shots right now. So for me, it's like he's been as dominant as he is. He's Player of the Week. He's one of the best players in the season. For sure should be in the All-Star conference. He should be an All-Star. And he's not even playing the best basketball that we know we can play. His efficiency can go back up, which is going to bring his points per game back up. His overall impact can just kind of continue to go up on top of the additions that he's made to his game on the defensive side. And then I think his processing has got a lot better. So I'm loving what I'm seeing from Alperen Şengün, but like I said, the interesting part to me is that he obviously can play better than what he's playing right now. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Şengün. Was there anything you want to add before?
Nothing on Alperen Şengün in particular, but I mean, there's a bunch of things we could talk about today. We know you could talk for days about Thompson, so we can talk about him. Recently, Şengün posted on his Instagram, best defender in the NBA for Thompson. He's been locking up a bunch of stars. What do you think about that topic right there?
I think Sam Vecini said, I don't know if it was last night or before, but his most recent podcast, he said that Amin was the best perimeter defender in the NBA. And I'll try to find the stat real quick that I want to bring up. Goodness.
Yeah. Why are you?
Yeah. Where is? Okay, here we go.
Go ahead.
It was best defensive field goal percentage at the rim so far in 2024 regular season. I'm not going to read out the numbers. I'll just tell you the names on this list in order. Wemby is number 1. Isaiah Stewart's number 2. Number 3 is Chet Holmgren. And number 4 is Amin Thompson. Number 5 is Jared Allen. Number 6 is Brook Lopez. Number 7. Oh, I'm sorry. No, so 6 is tied 2 ways between Brook Lopez, Donovan Clingan. Trace Jackson Davis is 8. Jaren Jackson Jr. is 9. And Jalen Williams is 10. So outside of Jalen Williams, it's literally nothing but the best rim protectors in the game. Like I said, it's guys like Wemby, Chet, Jared Allen, Brook Lopez, Donovan Clingan, and then there's Amin Thompson at 4. So that should kind of tell you the where he's been defensively this season. I mean, he should make an all defensive team. If he doesn't, honestly, we'll just like it'll be the media telling us in so many words that they don't care about anything that is not the 4 large market teams, because there's no way you can tell me that you're watching the Rockets play and don't think that he shouldn't even. I think he should be on the first team, but at least the second team. He should be on one of those teams at the end of this season, and he should get some 6 man of the year votes. He may not win it because Peyton Pritchard's kind of going pretty crazy right now, but he should be in like top 5 finishing in 6 man of the year right now with how he's playing offensively and defensively. So yeah, I'm loving what I'm seeing from him so far. I'm glad that it's starting to kind of be publicized what he's doing. Especially
one of my favorite defensive metrics is estimated defensive plus minus. And right now, Amin Thompson is in the 99th percentile in that stat amongst everyone in the NBA. Like, I mean, the only people above him are, I'll list them off. It's going to be Chet Holmgren, Jonathan Isaac, Alex Caruso, Hartenstein, Gobert, and Victor Wembanyama. Then you have Amin Thompson right behind him. So, I mean, that shows you how elite he is. He was top 15 in that stat last year, and it carried over to this season as well. Anytime he checks in, he's creating havoc. He's a defensive playmaker. He's getting a bunch of steals, getting a bunch of blocks, and guard 1 through 5. As Will mentioned, I mean, he's elite at protecting the paint, especially at the rim. And he's the most, I've said on this podcast, like I said a million times, he's the most disciplined defender I've probably ever seen from a 21-year-old player. It doesn't even Brunson, they throw a bunch of pump fakes and a lot of these guys bite on those. I was going to say Şengün, but Amin always, he stays on the floor. He waits, he anticipates, and he's able to jump whenever they actually go up for their shot. So it just speaks to how good of a defender he is. And then the athleticism along with that, it just allows him to guard anybody. So he truly is we don't throw around the word generational a bunch. Will said it again. He is truly, he is a generational defender. Like, he's literally the definition of that from what we've seen so far. And he's just getting started again. He's second year, 21 years old, and he's only getting better. So, the last thing I'll say about him is I know a lot of people want to see him starting. They need to be playing him 30 minutes a night, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. I'm cool with him coming off the bench, but just give that kid 30 minutes a night or more, and the Rockets are going to be fine. It's a good recipe for success. Did you want to add anything else on the Amin Thompson topic?
I'll just kind of reiterate what you said there. I'd personally start him if I was the one making the decision. But if he's not starting, he needs to play 30 minutes a night. Like, yesterday he didn't play. I'm not gonna say he played bad, but I think he could have played better than what he did. And then the guys who did play more, I think, had it going. Like Jabari played well, Dylan played well, and obviously you're not going to bench him for Fred. So I get why he didn't necessarily play 30 minutes yesterday, but on most nights, like, he should be playing upwards of 20. I mean, he played 26, which is honestly fine for me, like on a low end kind of thing. But like, it should be closer to 30 minutes a night, because it's pretty clear this team plays better with him on the court than with him off of it. And like, I'm not gonna argue it, but I don't think you could name me 4 guys on this team that are better than Amin Thompson right now. I think he's firmly a top 4 player on the team. And I've been saying for a while now, I think he's gonna be the best player on this team in a couple of seasons. So he needs to be playing 30. Like I said, I'd just go ahead and start him though. That was me, but 30 minutes a night.
I hear you. On a different topic, Jaylen Green had the best game of his young season against the Philadelphia 76ers. He had 41 points, and he was cooking at like 19 in the first quarter. Ime Udoka said post-game presser, hey, he's been too reliant on his jump shot. We want to get him going a lot downhill, and that was the focus in this game. But then the next game after that, and he had 6 shot attempts, had like 8 points. So it just goes to
He had 9 points, 2 of 6 from the field, 1 of 3 from three, 4 of 6 from free throw. I'm not gonna say his turnovers, but he
What
had
do you have,
that
like
52
5
true
turnovers?
shooting.
4? What was it?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
4.
I was
4, I
gonna
think.
mention really quickly. I really enjoyed that game against the Sixers. That was probably the first good game, maybe second, because he had a good game against the Bulls. He filled with 18 points. Nothing crazy, but efficient. He did his role in that game. But I mean, outside of that, that was really his only efficient good game in the entire month of November. And the Rockets went 11-4 in that month, which is a good thing in my personal opinion. When the Rockets can go 11-4, and you have a guy like Jaylen Green struggling. We talked about this in the last episode. But I see him getting downhill against the Sixers. Again, he didn't take that many threes, only 6 3-point attempts. And it looked like a recipe for success. It looked like something that was sustainable. I was excited to see how he was going to build off of that. And even though the Rockets won this past game, Jalen again just only had 6 shot attempts. He didn't do much. Didn't make much of an impact. So I mean, I see people on the timeline on Twitter, social media saying this is the me, and he might just be at this point. It's hard to get a read on Jalen, but at the end of the day, my primary takeaway is this Rockets team is not dependent on one player, and that's really good. That they can win games, especially with the guy who they drafted first in this rebuild, um, is still finding himself offensively, and they're still able to excel. It shows you how deep this team is and how good they'll be in the future. So I don't know what to expect from going forward. He'll not be as reliant on that jump shot. In between games still needs to come along, as we've mentioned before on this podcast as well. And again, always rooting for Jalen. A plan A is for him to stick in Houston, but he will have to pull it together by the end of the season, unless the Rockets are gonna look elsewhere. But what do you think about Jalen's 41-point outburst, and then I guess a little slow game following that?
I mean, I wanna start by saying, please, I don't hate Jalen. Like, I'm not a Jalen hater. I don't want to see those comments. Want to see him succeed in a Rockets uniform. But I'm gonna be real. Maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, for sure, I would have been like, oh my God, jumping out the gym behind it. It didn't really move me. And the reason why it didn't move me is because of the 10 games that came before it, and I knew what was going to happen afterwards. I knew that it wasn't going to be um, a follow up to it, right? And my issue with Jalen is I don't need 41 every night. Like, I mean, like, once again, it would be cool. You would be the best player in the league if you could do that. I'm fine with that, but I don't need 41 every single night. Which to talk about that game before I start critiquing, I will give him his props. It was 41. I'm gonna put the box.
That
That was
was
what,
Wednesday.
last Tuesday?
Wednesday.
Is that what it was? Wednesday. Wednesday. 41 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. 12 of 20 from the field, 4 of 6 from the 3-point line, and then 13 of 14 from the free throw line. So, like, the important part for me, I say all the time, I don't like seeing Jalen settle for threes. I think he took 6 threes. I think they were all 6 good shots from 3. He made 4 of them, which probably won't ever happen. Like, he probably won't shoot 4 or 6 from 3 again. But that was efficient. But I love the fact that he got down and put pressure on them, especially considering the Sixers didn't have the best rim protection back there. Go ahead and take advantage of that. Get downhill. 12 of 20 from the field, 13 of 14 from the free throw line, which tells me you were getting downhill because you was getting fouled. He played great, but like I said, it's just the reason why I don't. It isn't like I can't really take much from it is because I know that the 10 games before that it wasn't that, and then you go the very next game. I don't think he was bad against the Thunder. I wouldn't say he was bad. I just don't think that he did anything really. Like he kind of didn't hurt, but he didn't really help, if that makes sense. Like I think he had some good defensive possessions. And like I mean, obviously, just by virtue of having him on the court, defenses are going to guard him. So it's not like they're just leaving him wide open. So like I guess he's helping in that degree, but I mean that's that's not the production behind somebody who you draft number 2 overall to lead your team in scoring, and you gave him a $35 million contract. Like that's not that production. So that's why like I didn't really like. I was happy to see, and obviously we needed it because that was an overtime game, against the Sixers. Like we needed him to do it, but that's why I wasn't like throwing a parade and like, okay, he's back and we're good now. Like, no, I'm gonna need to see it for a bit, more prolonged period of time. It's a game by game sample. And I guess to get to like my final point, I'll land it was just I don't need 41 every night. if I can just get an efficient 23, I mean, that's honestly that's lower in the bar at this point, but an efficient 23, 24, I would much rather see that than to see him score 41, especially because I know that after the 41, it's gonna go back to, like I said, 9 points on 8 shots or whatever it was yesterday. Like instead of it being the high highs and the low lows, give me 24. Just like an efficient 24 every single night, efficient 20, 23, somewhere in that ballpark. And like we can move. I don't know if that will necessarily make me say he's untouchable, but at the very least, we can have those conversations. But the consistently inconsistent stuff like that has to stop. And so that's why like 41 for me at this point in time, it's not gonna move me, man. But
and as we talked about on the podcast last time with Mitty, I do believe that consistent stretch from Jalen will come. And as Will mentioned in that podcast as well, I'm not gonna say don't get fooled by it, but it'll be important to see what he does, after that consistent stretch that he has. I mean, that's what's most important. Again, the kid has just been inconsistent. It is what it is, and we want to see that consistency come in eventually. But again, I'm just happy that the Rockets are able to win games with Jalen having these inconsistent stretches. But the last two things we want to talk about in this episode, we talk about the OKC potential rivalry brewing, the Rockets being half a game out of first place. Before we dive into both of those, Will, I'll ask you this. We didn't discuss this off camera, but Will went to the game against Oklahoma City, and I saw him tweet out, this is probably one of the best environments that you've been in, since you've been going to a lot of games consistently. So if you wanted to speak on like the Toyota Center having life for a long time.
Yeah, I will. I'll speak on that. I've been going to Rockets games like my whole life. I've been going to like since I was old enough to like care about basketball. Like my first, some of my earth memories are like the Kevin Martin, Kyle Lowry years. Like I remember going to Toyota Center to watch that, but I didn't start like loving basketball and really like going into like the Harden later on kind of that kind of thing. So like obviously when you're in the playoffs every year, Toyota Center's kind of jumping. So like it was like I was there when we played the Warriors in the conference finals in 2018. So like I've
quick,
been in some
I didn't know you went
crazy
to that. What game did you go to? Game.
I went to one.
Yeah.
The one that we lost, actually, funny enough, we lost that one. But yeah, I went to game 1 that year. But yeah, so like I've been to all sorts of playoff games, regular season games with the Rockets. When James Harden got traded, I'm still going to the games. Matter of fact, funny enough, I've probably went to more games post James Harden than I have in my entire life before going. Like I'm pretty sure I've been to more, like, because I'm going like 15, 20 times a year, something like, well, probably not that many, but somewhere in that, well, probably in that ballpark, actually. Now I think about it, probably. So I've been there when we were bad and like we were winning 17 games, when we was winning 20 games, when when we would go into every game and like the goal was just don't get blown out. Like I was there for all of that. I am telling y'all that environment that I was in yesterday at OKC, one, I knew it was going to be something different because there was a person to my left. There's a person, I had Kaz to my right. So there's a person next to Kaz. There's people in front of us, and we were there was a club section behind us, right? So there wasn't like a row behind us, but there was people in the club section. And so one, I knew it was different because typically I can get up and like move my seat mid game sometimes because it's like there's no one sitting there. I know it by the second quarter, if that seat's not taken, I can just move on down a row or two, right? So that it's that, or I can, if nothing else, I can I usually like put my feet up on the seat in front of me and kind of like lean back a little bit because there's nobody there. Couldn't do that yesterday. So that was the first kind of sign that it wasn't going to be that type of environment. But then the second sign was, and it took us in a little minute to kind of get into it. And I think it was the refs that woke us up when they started calling all those fouls and they weren't giving it to us on the other end. And it was like, bro, what's going on? That was when we were like, all right, bro. So that's when the ref you suck starts coming out, the boos start coming out. Like it was lively. Like people, like I could hear the arena. Like when the defense chants came on, the whole crowd is yelling defense. Let's go Rockets. Is the whole crowd yelling that, like everything. I told Kaz, shout out Kaz, but y'all remember the play where I don't know if it was Şengün or Jabbar, I don't remember, but somebody kind of got tangled up with Hardenstein and I think it was Aaron Wiggins, and the ball went out of bounds. And they said it was our ball. And then the Thunder coach, I can't pronounce his last name, Mark Dugnet or whatever his name, I can't pronounce it, my fault. But he challenged it. and the crowd started booing. And I mean, I'm booing too, like, nah, bro, because that's clearly our ball. I told Kaz, I'm like, if they go back and look at this and overturn the call, I don't think the refs are gonna go home safe tonight because of how like, because that was like the end of like the craziest bad calls. We've been booing all night. So I'm like, bro, if they come back and say, because this is, I'm sure this is also after they reviewed Alperen Şengün getting hit in the head, and they didn't call it a flagrant. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, if you somehow overturn this when it's clear as day off OKC, I promise you may not go.
You
home
were
safe.
saying that
Like,
they might have that refs. Oh, they're saying they're gonna have Lou Dort's address on the.
Yeah, because he smacked him in the head. Now I'm saying, bro, I'm telling you, bro, it was. I'm like, bro, you're not going home safe. So luckily they did get it right, and people cheered when they got it right. And especially in that fourth quarter when it was back and forth, everybody's engaged. People are chanting, and then like the final like minute and a half, 2 minutes, everybody stood up. We were on our feet the entire time. And I truly believe that like even like something as simple as like reviewing Alperen Şengün getting smacked across the head, I don't think they do that on the road. I think that if that was in OKC territory, they keep playing. I think the fact that we all got up and booed, they're like, all right, let's take a look at this real quick. And so one, I'll say that like if you're like on the fence about going, going matters, especially in a game like that. Like I promise you, like that home court advantage stuff is not a joke. That's a real thing. So like go if you can. Like I know the tickets aren't the cheapest anymore, but like if you have the opportunity to go, one, you're gonna enjoy it because it's a good game in person. But two, like that actually makes a difference for the home team. But then number two, if you were there yesterday, like shout out to y'all because like I think we made a difference. I think we helped win that game yesterday.
Yeah,
so
and I'll speak on this. I didn't go to a bunch of games, pre rebuild era. I went to one playoff game. It was back in 2012 when we were playing. Actually, it was when KD was playing without Russell Westbrook. If y'all remember that series, Francisco Garcia days. But I've seen the Toyota Center when it's jumping. It's a good feeling. So to see what it looked like on television yesterday, it's really important. A Rockets team that was good at home last year, they can get a lot better with a consistent, really good home, base if they're showing up consistently. And I think it's a combination of, people finding out, okay, is this team for real? And also still, it is still football season and, the casual fans not too tapped in earlier on. But I think people are going to start realizing, especially with a big win over OKC, hey, this team is legit. This is a fun team to watch. It's a team that the city can rally around. And at this point in time, they're honestly the best sports team in the city. The Texans been bullshitting. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, this is a team that Houstonians can really love to watch. And again, one of the best top 3 defensive teams in the league. They flying around. They're young. There's a lot to see. So it is great to see the Rockets. I forget who posted. I want to say it was Lashard. But after Dylan Brooks hit that game winning little fadeaway, whatever you want to call it, that was the most I've seen the Toyota Center, cheer at the crib since maybe game 5 when Eric Gordon hit that game winner against the Golden State Warriors.
I think 2019.
Okay, yeah, I'm lacking 2019 playoff. That double, they had an OT. Yeah,
because we weren't there in 2020. And I ain't gonna lie, I mean, it was some lit moments. Like, so I went to the games in 2020. We had Russell Westbrook. It was some lit moments then. I don't know if I could say that was like the most lit it's been, in like the last like decade. Like I can't say that much. But what I can say is since James Harden has left, that is the most, at least when I have been, and I go pretty frequently, that is the most that I've ever seen it be. The only other game that kind of comes to my mind was I don't know if you remember this game. This was in 2022. It was a 2022-2023 season, but I think it was in 2022. We played Philadelphia when James Harden came back. That game went to OT. I remember we was lit that day. I don't think it was what it was yesterday, but that was a game where I like Toyota Center was definitely like into it. But yeah, yesterday was for sure like probably the best it's been. Since James Harden has left, in my opinion.
Yeah, and last thing on that topic, the Rockets, depending on what happens in their final Cup game against the Sacramento Kings, they should be hosting. No, in fact, they are hosting. No, they should be hosting a game for the knockout round of the NBA Cup. Correct.
It's tomorrow.
The last Cup game. The Sacramento Kings are 0-3. they
And if we win this one, what happens?
automatically, or depending on the no, if they win, because the Rockets and Golden State are the only undefeated teams left in the Western Conference. Depending on the point differential, the Rockets have like a plus 33 plus point differential over the Warriors. So unless the Warriors blow a team out by like 50, the Rockets are going to be the 1 seed, meaning they'll play the wild card team. Meaning the team that didn't win the group but had the best point differential in the West. That's the team that the Rockets are going to host.
And then if we win
They
that
go
round,
straight
is
to
it
Vegas.
to the finals?
And it'll be a Final Four in Vegas. Yeah, so right now
Oh,
it's going to be
okay.
quarterfinal.
Okay. And if we
Correct. Yeah,
lose that
single
one, there's no
elimination.
Vegas.
Yeah, the entire way. So that game will be December 10th or 11th, depending on what happens against the Kings. But that game, if it's a home game, it's like a 95% chance we'll be at the crib. That's going to be jumping, and I can't wait to see that. What I'd recommend, you probably don't get tickets to it. I would definitely go to that game because that's going to be something to watch. But on a similar note, I'll say this. The OKC game was fun. I mentioned I had to look up the stat. The Rockets have been playing OKC extremely even during the rebuild, even when we had no business being even with them. In the past, 3 years of counting this one, the Rockets are, I need to go look at it again, but I believe they're 8-7 against OKC. And again, it just always seems like they split the season series. A few years ago, the Rockets had the 3-1 edge, but they always get the best of them, and it's always a fun matchup. And Will was definitely getting into some battles yesterday on Twitter with that OKC fan base. But that's going to be a fun matchup for years to come. Those are the two youngest teams. That along with Minnesota, but they're struggling right now. But those two teams, I believe they're really going to be at the top of the West for a long time. And there's going to be a lot of fun battles. And yes, they were missing Chet Holmgren yesterday. Yes, they were missing Alex Caruso. But that team is still extremely good. There's no excuse. That's a huge win for this Rockets team. And I really think that's going to be a rivalry. It's going to be a really good one. There's going to be a lot of playoff series between these two teams. And it's just the beginning of it. But Will, what did you think about, that potential rivalry? And,
I don't think it's a
think it is
potential
one. Gotcha.
rivalry at all. I think it is one. Yeah, no, I think it. I think that there's 3 teams that no matter rebuilding, contending, in between, that I want to beat. OKC, Golden State, and San Antonio. Like I think that is a real, at least for my generation. I know like the older Rockets fans kind of have some energy for like Utah, and I think a little bit of energy for
Still
Dallas.
does.
Yeah. But I don't really have in my lifetime. I don't. We've only competed against. Well, we competed against both those guys in the playoffs, and we handled them pretty quickly both times we played them. So at least since I've been a Rockets fan, let me put it like that. Since I've been actively keeping up, we played them in the playoffs. I think one time apiece, and both times they got gentlemen swept, if I'm not mistaken. So there's not a real rivalry to me. But OKC for sure is one of them. For me, people ask me something like, why do you hate the OKC so much? Like what they do to you? One, it's kind of just been like we've been on the same timeline and trajectory as them pretty much my entire time of being a Rockets fan, right? And then obviously like it starts with like the James Harden coming to Houston thing from OKC, so there's already the connection there. When they were good, in the post-Harden era, when they were good and competing for championships, we were really good. It's in that mix as well. The season we traded for Chris Paul was the season they traded for Paul George, and I remember like, all right, man, OKC's one of them teams you gotta go through in the West if we want to get to the finals. And I mean, that was the year they got sent home by Donovan Mitchell. But like, I'm like, okay, that's a serious team. Like Russell Westbrook, Paul George, that could be that's the team we have to worry or kind of watch out for. So every time we played the regular season, it was obviously a battle, right? And then to kind of make the history even more connected, we traded Chris Paul for probably the best Oklahoma City Thunder ever in Russell Westbrook. So now we got that history, and then to make it even funnier, we played them in the playoffs. Well, actually, we played them in the playoffs in 2017 as well. Sent them boys home. We played them in 2020 again after we traded Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul, or by the way around, we traded Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook. And I don't know how y'all feel about this, but I talked to a couple Rockets fans, and they kind of feel the same. I'm 24, and I've been watching the Rockets pretty religiously since I was 12, 13-ish, somewhere in that ballpark. In my entire time being a Rockets fan, I have never been more scared and more stressed for a game than I was for that 2020 Game 7 in the first round against the Thunder. Like that terrified me. I was 18, 19 at the time. And bro, yeah, I remember I was like sitting on my chair at home, like shaking the whole time. Like I'm like, bro,
It's
if
over.
we lose this
Oh,
game,
it's all
like it's over, bro. Like it's the narratives, like it's cooked if we lose that game. So like I was so scared when we played that game, and obviously we were able to win. James Harden got that crazy block on Lou Dort, so it's the history there. And then shortly after that, both teams hit the rebuild. That was, matter of fact, that was the last time that both teams were in the playoffs. But before last
right.
season when the Thunder did make it. So like the last time we were in the playoffs was the last time they were in the playoffs. So we both kind of had a rebuild at the same time. We both had top picks in 2021 and 22 at the same time. They kind of came out their rebuild a little bit sooner than we
Right.
did because they had SGA a year before we kind of started rebuilding. But even then, like we're kind of just a year behind them. Like where they were, where they were 2 years ago is where we were last year, and then where they were last year is kind of where we are right now. And so like even now we're still kind of on similar timelines, similar, you know what I'm saying, top draft prospects, all that good stuff. So like that's kind of why the reason why we had the ride. I didn't even mention the James Harden Russell Westbrook MVP race that was like really really heated in 2017. That like I still
I used
think
to
Harden
argue.
got
I used
robbed
to
that
argue
year,
that
but
MVP race every single day. I was in college. I was arguing every single day about the
yeah.
MVP race. So I hear you.
Yeah. And so like just always having to deal with them every single year in some capacity, whether I'm arguing MVPs, I'm arguing playoff series, whether I'm arguing who got the best rebuild, like it just seems like no matter what stage of the Rockets are at, like OKC is either right there with us or like a year in front or behind us in that same stage too. So it's like no matter what, we're always connected to them. I forgot another one. They gave us Alperen Şengün. That's another one that, like I completely forgot. Like no, like it's just no matter how you look at it, our franchises for some odd reason have been like interlinked for the last like decade. And then that fan base just starts talking. So yeah, that's why like I don't care if we're rebuilding, contending in between. I want to beat OKC. So anytime we beat, and on top of that, they're a great team. That's the only time you hear me give them props on this show. They're a great team this year. And so the fact that our team not only like went toe to toe with them, but won. I don't care that Chet wasn't playing. You still have the MVP. You still have Jalen Williams, who's supposed to be the best. Like I've heard he will be the best player on the Rockets. So I don't really care that you didn't have one player. Isaiah Hartenstein's a good player. Yeah, I don't really care. Good win from the Rockets. It kind of showed the league that we're for real, that you can't just like walk into the other center and just kind of sleepwalk no more. Like, nah, they the real deal.
Yeah.
So I let my point there.
On the same note with OKC, again, just because those two guys weren't playing doesn't mean anything. And I'll say this: yeah, really good team. I think they should get to the Western Conference Finals here and make it to the finals eventually. So really great team. But as Will mentioned, where they were 2 years ago is where we were last year. They were 40 and 42 2 years ago. They made the huge leap last year and made it to the 1 seed. And this kind of jumps into my next point. Can the Houston Rockets stay, at the top of the West? And I'll let Will comment next. Yeah, the Rockets are number 2 right now. And as we've mentioned, they aren't necessarily playing their best basketball. They're still bottom in the league in efficiency. They really win their games off of getting a bunch of rebounds, winning the rebounding battle, playing elite defense, and getting out of transition and eliminating transition defense. These are huge reasons why the Rockets are 15 and 6. But their offense still hasn't clicked the way it's supposed to. And they'll be able to figure that out as the season goes on. And I still think they can improve. They've won. I saw a wild stat. The Rockets have won 4 games this year, shooting under 42% from the field. Other teams have only had 1 game at most with a win, shooting like 42%. So the Rockets are able to win those really ugly basketball games. It goes show you how good they are defensively. But I don't believe the offense is going to be this ugly the entire season. For instance, Fred was pitiful to start the season efficiency-wise. If you look at his numbers now, I want to say he's up to a 53.8 true shooting percentage, or maybe a 52. He was around 56 last year. So he's getting a lot better. We have Jabari Smith Jr., who was shooting like 12% on wide open threes to start the season. Now he's shooting around 35.5% from 3. I think that can still improve. We have not found a consistent Jaylen Green just yet. That, will come eventually. All these factors And we don't know what's gonna happen with Kemba, but maybe he comes in and makes an impact. I don't know. Even if he doesn't, this is the Rockets team that can still improve, and they're already a half a game out of first place. I personally believe they're just getting started. I feel crazy even saying it. At the beginning of the season, I thought they could win 50 games. 53 was my prediction, but they look better than my prediction. Honestly, right now they're on pace for 58 wins, and I think they can keep it up. I'm not gonna say they're gonna win 58 games, but that 50 wins looks within reach for sure if they keep this up. And like I mentioned, I think they can play a lot better basketball. And it starts with Alperen Şengün. I think that efficiency will go up. It'll get back to normal. First career, he's around a 58 true shooting percentage. Right now, he's around 54. That efficiency will make a difference. He'll probably finish the year averaging over 22 points a night. Again, right now he's at 18.8. So there's a lot to be excited about this Rockets team. Another wild stat, they won their 6th road game against the last one was against the 76ers. It took them until March 2nd last year to win 6 road games. So that was their biggest issue last year. They weren't winning on the road, and now they're winning on the road, and they were a great home team last year. Now they're also a great home team this year. So add all that together, great coach, a lot of great young guys. This Houston team, I believe, can stay at the top of the West. A lot of these guys in the West don't scare me. Phoenix, if they're having injury issues, they're going to struggle, as we saw. Memphis is for real. I think Memphis is serious. They're around 14-7 right now, even with the injury concerns. So Memphis would be a good team to watch out for. OKC will obviously be at the top of the West. I'm not scared about Dallas. The Warriors are starting to lose a lot of games. Well, we'll see about them. But, yeah, again, like these teams don't necessarily scare me. I think the Rockets could stay top 3, top 4 as long as they keep it up and improve like I expect them to. But, not necessarily in my point there. Will, what would you think? You think the Rockets can probably stay up here towards top 2-ish, maybe top 4 for the rest of the season?
We can be top 5. I don't know if we'll stay top 2. Just because we are rolling right now, but there are some pretty clear problems, or I won't say problems. I'll say holes on the roster that can be addressed. And if Stone addresses them, right, that can change things, right? Most nights we're still not really getting much production from our backup center position. As a matter of fact, I kind of think it's time to go ahead and I'll probably give Steven Adams a couple more games, but it might be time to go ahead and chalk him and Landale and start just playing Jabari at the backup 5. Or it's funny to sound, maybe give Jeff Green another chance because he actually didn't play too bad when we played him at the small ball 5 last year. But yeah, we still don't have a backup center. And then we're not getting much production from our starting shooting guard on most nights, and he plays a role that we desperately need. We need a perimeter scorer. We need someone to create advantages from the perimeter, whether it's him shooting or getting to the rim, just something that's a different version of an attack that's not spamming the pick and roll with Fred VanVleet and Alperen Şengün. We don't really have that, and so I do think that it's going to get difficult at times offensively because of that. Now, our defense and transition offense have just been so out of this world that it's made up for it. So maybe they keep doing that, but just kind of being realistic, I kind of don't know if that's going to sustain the entire season. But to me, that doesn't even really matter. I don't really care if we don't finish top 2.
Yeah.
Just stay competitive. If we can stay top 6, which I think we can do, I'll be happy. I don't want to be in the play-in this year. I want to just be a playoff team. And I think we can. And once we go to the playoffs, once again, speaking realistically here, a team with no experience and has, some problems that can be addressed on the roster probably won't go too far in the playoffs this year, which is fine. We're still young. We're 20, 21, 22 years old for the most part. I'm not tripping that if we go to the playoffs and have a competitive first round loss. But yeah, that's kind of what I expect from this season. But what I am saying though, this is why on Twitter when I said that when I said that I wanted OKC to beat the Lakers, even though I think we would have been the first seed if that happened. I'm not really sure that shook out, but the reason why I wanted the Lakers to lose that game.
I was saying they would have been the first seed. They would have been the first seed if they lost that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so even though we would have been the first seed, I wanted OKC to win because it's bro, we're being realistic. And I know we beat them yesterday, but being realistic, let's go ahead and put the pitchforks down. Let's put the fandom to the side. Let's just look at big picture here. We're not a better team than OKC this year. And that's fine to say. They have an MVP caliber player. They're a year ahead of us in the rebuild. like their roster is designed to be the best roster in basketball. Ours is not. So like it's fine to say that we're not going to be better than what's probably going to be the best team in the league this year, right? It's probably going to be them or Boston. So like I'm not really mad. Like I'm not cool, whatever. We don't have to be better than them. Everybody else needs to stay below us, right? So Lakers, Clippers, Grizzlies, Warriors. I don't know where the Warriors are right now. Oh, they're beneath us. But yeah, Warriors, like all those teams beneath us need to stay beneath us. So like that's why like every night, if Eastern Conference team is playing a Western Conference team, I'm pulling for the East. And if it's two Western Conference teams, I'm pulling for the lower seed to lose. I know that sounds crazy, but that's why I'm pulling for the lower seed to lose every single night. Unless of course it's like a low, like a play in or like out of the playoff team. If like the 4 and the 5 seed play, I'm pulling for the 5 seed. I'm pulling for the 4 seed. I need the 5 seed to stay beneath us.
So like what teams would you say, like there's probably like a short list of teams you're like, okay, these teams are within reach of Houston. Like I know it'll probably take a second to pull it up, but like what teams you'd be like, all right, I need them to lose. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll say this.
I want every team beneath us to keep losing. Like every team that's in the playoff picture in the West that's not like, yeah, because it's so crazy this year. I need all these teams to keep losing. I'm gonna be real.
It's close.
Yeah, like if you're not Portland, Utah, or New Orleans, you got to keep losing, bro. But like I said, if like for example Memphis and Golden State were to play, I mean I guess I really wouldn't care because they're both pretty close. Yeah. But like I need those teams to keep losing. Like as much as we can win, we need to build a cushion between us by us keep winning and someone else keep losing. And so yeah, that's why like I know it's crazy. I know that that like I said we want to be the first seed and we want to win. I care more about the big picture, which is making sure that we don't fall into like the play-in tournament. Like I would much rather finish top 6 than to say we were the 1 seed for a weekend. Like that doesn't really move me. So that's all I got to say on that.
Again, Will is speaking extremely logically with this point. I believe he's 100% right in that aspect. But I do think it's fun, you know, just the Rockets were the 1 seed and see how. So I'm not tripping if that had my agendas off. You know, I'll talk my noise. I think it's fun. You know, you never know what's sustainable and what's not. Again, this Rockets team can hit another stretch where they're just clicking on all cylinders offensively, and that defense is going to stay the same. They could mess around and be a top 2 team. Again, I think Will is speaking 100% logically, and I'm not mad at him at all. Me personally, I think it's fun to talk about. Oh, you know, this Rockets team is beating all odds. You know, they're going to be the one. Maybe they're the 1 seed. See how long it can. Yeah, okay. So I won't even talk about the 1 seed, but that 2 seed, I personally believe it's within reach. It's not realistic for them to stay there. I can't just sit here and tell you guys that they're going to be a 2 seed, but man, that would be fun. You know, that's something I want to root for. So just keep winning games. If those teams closer to the Rockets, you know, are beating those bottom teams that could catch Houston eventually, I won't trip about it too early. I'll probably look at it later in the season, but I personally think it's fun for the Rockets to be this high in the standings, and I hope they can keep it up. But that's the last thing I wanted to say on this episode. Fun Cup game coming up. Again, they could clinch a home court advantage in the knockout round, depending on what happens in that game. Well, if you want to say anything about that, or we can probably just close and maybe join in after. We have a long break. You know, if y'all don't understand like the Cup right now, you'll look at people's schedules. There'll be like a huge break from like the 8th to like the 19th. That's that Cup is going to be taking place in that time frame. So hopefully the Rockets can play some games in that gap because it was boring as hell last year, not having a game for like 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean that's all I had to say on this episode. Will as well. Appreciate y'all joining. It's around 44-ish minutes. Y'all tap in soon. We'll be back for another episode soon.